When you are Anne Clark and the rest doesn't matter. When I was around 16/17 of a year old in Germany, I was introduced to Anne Clark's music by someone in hospital. I wasn't too keen on the harsh sounds and cold voice at first, and I'm ashamed to say I started loving Clark's music after I smoked a joint with the same friend who introduced me to her music. Maybe I wasn't ready for new sounds, and had to get it while under some kind of influence. It wasn't that her music was bad or boring or low quality, it was that I loved soft sounds and singing at the time, as well as folky stuff. I had to find my way to her music, but loved it from then on. Fast forward a couple of decades, having moved away from Germany to 2 countries, and for a few years having Clark's music off my radar, I rediscovered it again in the late 2000s when I moved back to London. I started to buy her new, more mellow music, still with poetry, combined with my discovery of Rainer Maria Rilke, Eric Fried, Emily Dickinson, Kay Tempest, formerly Kate, parallel to that and years before. I started searching for gigs in the UK as I went to hundreds of concerts over the years, and London being paradise for music, I didn't see any concerts with Anne Clark. What happened? On her website I started to fill in a contact form to inquire if she ever plays in London, as I could see concert dates mainly in Germany. To my surprise, Anne herself responded. I did not expect a response, and if at all then from a representative or management. Anne was very prompt and kind in her response, and a few months later she did play in London with Hair B. From then on some correspondence started, which was mainly initiated by me. I was gobsmacked, of course, having listened to her music on and off for many years. When Clark and Hair B played in London's The Garage in Islington, I saw a fan outside the venue in the queue behind me holding up a big black book with Anne's image. After the concert at home I started to research what books were out there on or by Anne and found notes taken, traces left. It was a little bit of a challenge to find a copy. I cannot remember if it was on Clark's website in the merchandise store, or where I finally found it. I ordered it, and started to devour the 300-plus page part autobiography, part lyrics with translation book. The middle section, like in all artists' books, full of photos from gigs, interviews, touring, etc. But I actually started reading the book, word for word. On the left page the English song lyric, opposite on the right the German translation. Knowing her songs and lyrics, I started to discover a mistake. And then another, and then another. Being in email correspondence with Anne already with small talk and about her gig, I emailed her that I found a few mistakes. The more I read, the more mistakes popped up. Anne then asked me to go through the whole book looking for mistakes, which I did. She then commissioned me, and later someone created a website where I was placed as the main translator with the others who helped me in a team upon requesting some help. Some of Anne's German friends who love English and her work, and previously were introduced to me. They and the band and other collaborators also appeared on the new website. And to my despair the website also was full of mistakes, even though for weeks I tried to get access to it to look for mistakes before they launched it. Anne just gave jobs to everyone but didn't take charge. I started to get angry with further mistakes on a new project with the website. My anger that time manifested in cynicism and sarcasm, which pissed Anne off. If people have watched Ricky Gervais' series, Afterlife, where he plays a widow who pisses everyone off with angry sarcasm after his wife died of cancer, I turned to sarcasm when I discovered mistakes on the website hours before launch, but was denied access until the day before while I worked at my job until 9 p.m., no time to correct everything. In hindsight, this commissioning, which was completely verbal, well, in writing via email, but should have been done professionally, with a contract, a deadline, etc. But of course, as she is Anne Clark, I was delighted, gobsmacked and happy to dive into the work. The book was initially done and overseen by Clark's manager Jeff August, who also is her guitarist. When Anne referred me to August to liaise with the mistakes I found, he wasn't a happy camper and from the get-go started to passive-aggressively patronize me. It wasn't a one-off, and at one point I was hurt and confused and mentioned something to Anne. She then rebuked him via email, copying me in. From then on he stopped, but even among meeting the band for the first time in Bochum, Germany at one of Clarke's concerts in 2014, August was always distant and ignored me. Fair enough, it must have pissed him off that some fan out of the UK presents his butchering of Anne Clarke's lyrics, and he was confronted with such a mess of a book that he fucked up. In hindsight, after the initial, wow, I met Anne Clarke and work on her book, she should have fired him. Maybe I'm too harsh, and surely if she would fire him, she'd fire at least 2 positions in one person, her management and her guitarist, and in the case of the book the translator and editor. At least 3 known positions in one person. And maybe this is a band on a tight budget, but I'd rather scrap some projects and do whatever remaining project properly. Less is more. And quality is everything. I appreciate that Anne did not fire him and that her band are a close-knit band, like family. But what happened after is what has made me stop respecting her work. I respect Anne Clarke as a human being and truly believe she is a good person. I just have different work ethics when it comes to the work I put out. It felt like her lyrics, her book, her work was more important to me than to her. She even made a joke at one point when I asked her about a sentence in one of her songs, if she meant it in this or that way in order to know how to accurately interpret and therefore translate it. Her joking kind of knocked the wind out of it a little, because I tried to correct her work in the best possible way and fix the disaster Jeff August created. But in hindsight I think Anne doesn't even care. When emailing became my source for communication as well as curse.